Welcome everyone, this is Coaching in Session. My name is Michael Reven and I will be your mindset coach today. And today we're going to be talking about how men are being raised today. This is going to be one of those conversations that people are going to think is maybe toxic, or they're going to think that it's irrelevant because we live in a society where everything's about freedom and equality and appropriation. The issue with what's happening with men today is that they're being raised by women. They're not being raised by men. And then even the men that are being raised by men, the men in their lives are being passive. So both realms are bad for a young man that is growing up. He's not going to be the person he's supposed to be. So today is going to be a message for those young men who are growing up, who are maybe unsure what it means to be a man, what it is that they can accomplish, and then understanding the challenges, the obstacles that are going to be in front of them. Because as men, we have many challenges today, more so than we did in the past. And I'm not just talking about how we had to go out and fight wars and things like that. I'm talking about the psychological battle of being a man today is a lot more difficult to navigate. There's a lot of confusion. What is a man? And then the societal norms, which we talked about, that corrals the thinking of individuals to think in the way that's opposite of what their true biological factors are. So we're going to be talking about that just right now. So we're going to be checking out my most recent blog, To the Young King. All right, if you're new to the channel, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and to share this video and your audio to help build a community of like-minded individuals. Today, I really want you to share this with parents who have young men, sons, fathers who have sons, and just young men who might not have a good father figure in their life. And I'm not saying that I'm the best father figure in the world. I do have a son. I am the father figure. I am the leader. I am the protector. I'm the provider. I'm the everything he needs and more. I'm everything my wife needs and more. There's a difference between a man and then an authentic man. We're going to be talking about that today. And I'm going to be talking about this blog, and I'm going to be sharing with you some of the stuff that's happening in the world. So right now, there's an attack on manhood, on being a man, on being masculine. It's confusing to a lot of men, young men especially. Well, what is a man? Because if we look at just the household family unit, right? The kid is growing up into this household. He might have both parents, right now. So let's go through all the scenarios. He has both parents. Maybe his dad is not showing up. Maybe his dad's coming home beat down, miserable. He decides to cope with a bottle. So he's an alcoholic after work. And, you know, when you go into that zone of just drinking after work, you don't want to be bothered. You don't want to be a part of anything. You just kind of want to get away, escape. So that's what this young man sees. A father who does not accept the challenge of the world and who does not overcome the challenge of the world. He runs away from the challenge and he runs to the bottle or to the drugs, or to an exterior pleasure factor, be it sex, porn, whatever. The young man sees that their father is being passive. And one of the rules to being a man is you cannot be passive. With that being said, if you're assertive, you're actually toxic, right? You're toxic according to societal norms. So if a man knows what he's going for, he's saying, hey, you know, I know what I'm going for. I know what I want. And he goes for it. That's toxic now. And I remember when I was 18, I went through the whole rites and passages of manhood. We're going to be talking about that just momentarily. There was a woman who was the coordinator for all the interns, and she had her, a person under her. I talk about the story quite often, but then the girl was so afraid of me because I had that assertive nature. Of course, Mama Bear comes in and says, you can't have that assertive nature here. That's not appropriate for work. So I can't be a man at work. I have to be docile and I have to be complacent. I have to bow my head. I learned very quickly that the world does not cater to a man with a mission, especially if he's not in a position of power. Because I had no power at that time. I was 18. I'm new to the work industry. She, was almost a VP at the time. And then I think she did go on to corporate. So she was already in that masculine mindset of, hey, I'm above you. You're going to do what I say and how I want it. However, today I live in a different world. Now I'm my own boss. I'm the creator of whatever I want. And that is how I live. I don't have issues with people telling me what I can and can't do. I do whatever I want. The mentality there that you can go out and you can get your own is toxic. Look at Andrew Tate, for example, right? He's telling men to go out, get a purpose, find passion. And this is a man who has kids and family and stuff like that. You don't see it as much because what he's presenting is that masculine bravado type guy, right? Muscles and money and girls and stuff like that. And there's nothing wrong with that, right? A man can have desires like that. A man can reach desires like that. Yet, just because that is what is a man to some people doesn't mean that's a man to everyone, right? A man can be a family man, right? He goes to his 9 to 5, he comes home and spends time with the family. But he's not using the bottle. He's not using drugs. That could be a man. That could be someone a man aspires to be. But we do have to look at what's happening in the world first. So to the young king is a message to all of the young men in the world who are growing up and they don't know what it means to be a man and how to be a man, especially in the world today. And I'm going to be talking about that. But the first thing I want you to understand when you're on that passage to being a king, because you are a young prince, you are a young king right now, you're learning how to be a ruler. Now, just because you're learning how to be a ruler does not mean you're going to make it to being a ruler. Not every king is going to rule. For example, if we look back at medieval times, the first son typically is the heir to the throne. And then you have the second son and the third son, and he's the second heir, third heir. But they might never get a chance to rule because the first son is going to be the heir. We all have that capability to be the ruler. We are all heirs. We are all men. And from there, we can make adjustments. But we do need to know first what it means to be a man and to step into manhood. And I found that you have to separate the process to becoming a man in several stages. Now, I talked about this already, what it is to raise a child development. From 0 to 7, the mother should be the primary caregiver for that child, not saying the father should not be in the picture. The father should be in the picture. The father should be creating an example, being that person that child is following and that child wants to mimic, right? So if you have a son from 0 to 7, you might not be like training him and teaching him just all about mindset. Of course, you're going to read him stories about knighthood and chivalry and little things here. Oh, you have to hold the door for your mom, things like that, right? We teach them those things as they're growing, but we don't have to make them aware until they're 7. Because at the age of 7, that's when a father, you should take over educating your son. Now, I understand it's a tough thing because you got work, you got obligations, you got to do all this stuff, right? That needs to be done. Well, now it's your turn, right? The mom gave the boy all of the love, all of the attention, all of the care he needed. He has enough in his tank. And now it's time for a man to start to realize, well, what is the real world? What is the nature of a man? I talk about the first stage here, and you are going to give this young man a sense of duty. That can be whenever you're out with your mom, you must protect your mom. You just tell your son that. Now, can a 7-year-old fight off a 25-year-old bodybuilder? Probably not. But we give him that sense of duty. I remember when I was like growing up, I don't remember when I said this, but my mom had told me that one time I was just with my sister and I was probably like 4 years old or 3 years old or something like that. And when someone started to look at my sister or like playing with her, and this is the words of my mother, she says that I said, "This is my baby," meaning this is the person I'm supposed to protect. So I had that mentality growing up. I have to be the protector. Even like, growing up, I would get like Nerf guns and like I had like bows and arrows and they're all plastic toys, but I would like makeshift them into be lethal weapons. But the problem is that, I put a Lego on the end of a Nerf gun or something like that. It wouldn't hurt anybody. But that is the mentality I gave myself, where I have to be the protector. Growing up and, break-ins in the house and stuff like that, who's going to protect us, right? And so I gave myself that duty. And that's what a man has to give to their son, a sense of duty. It doesn't have to be protecting it. It can be just saying, hey, you have to be chivalrous. You have to respect your mother. You have to take out the trash. You have to help me mow the lawn, or you have to have some responsibility, a sense of duty, okay? A sense of duty there. And it's not just, you need to make sure your room is clean, all right? A sense of duty where it's bigger than them, it's bigger than their actions. So the sense of duty is the first stage, and that happens around the age of 7. Then we go into the second stage, and this is right before puberty, all right? So the 11, 12, 13, depending on the kid, right? Again, it's around that time before they're a teenager. At that time, you have to help them, and you're going to be able to answer any questions they have as the man, as the father. This is when you need to be making sure that you have already been doing your due diligence and giving lectures and giving talks and giving them opportunities to communicate with you, or you communicating with them, not just kind of being passive and going in your man cave and watching your sports and telling them not to bother you and things like that. That should not happen. You should always be communicating from the age of 7 all the way to the stage 2 right here, right before the teen years. That right there is going to help that boy go through that transition, because the body's changing. They got hair in places on their face and under their arms, and they have to start wearing deodorant, and their voice is getting deeper. Their muscles are growing. So they start to see a lot of changes in their body. And if you know anything about change and about teens, there's a lot of self-consciousness there. So he's self-conscious. Oh, I'm too tall now. Oh, my voice is too deep now. Oh, I have face hair and stuff like that. That right there is going to set him back if we don't set him forward. So that means we have to embrace that change he's going through, and we have to work through that change with him and answer any questions. And then right there, begin the process. Well, what is a man? That is going to be the second stage. Then our third stage is going to be around 15 or 16. All right. It can happen a little bit earlier, but around 15, typically 15 is the age. That's right when they now have developed more into their being. They got very comfortable, with the puberty, and now they're getting that sense of, all right, I'm going to be rebellious. I'm going to rebel. Sometimes you might hear that a young man is going to be trying to fight their father or box them and things like that. I encourage a father not to allow their child to hit them at all. And if they do try to hit you or something like that, you can pretend. It's okay to pretend to box, but as soon as it becomes physical, you need to crush it. All right. So me and my father, we would always say, like, let's fight. But we never fought. I never touched him. He never touched me, because I know if I touched him, I'll be dead. All right. I'll be gone. I wouldn't be here right now. All right. That is what a father must do. Not saying he needs to harm his kids, but he needs to put them in their place. So if a kid just starts punching you out of nowhere, saying, I'm going to fight you and things like that, you must crush him. And you must put the fear of God in him. Respect and fear. If you're not familiar with that concept, I wrote a blog on it. Respect and fear is talking about that. He will respect you and he will fear you. And your lady must respect you and she must fear you too. As much as I know it's toxic in our world today, but that is the truth. All right. Respect and fear. Read that blog if you haven't checked it out. In this stage, right, he's learning how to be that young king, that ruler in himself, in his mind. He's creating his identity. All right. There's nothing wrong with him creating that identity and going off his own, understanding that you are still the boss, the father, the man figure. Now, once that happens, right, he's going to adjust. It's going to take a little bit of time, a year and a half maybe. But then by the time he's 18, right, our final stage, now this boy is going to be finalizing his process, his first process into being a man. Okay. He's probably graduated from high school. He probably has a girlfriend. He is giving himself some duty, some purpose, a goal, a mission in life. That right there is going to be the foundation for him. All right. So this is all the foundation work. But then a father during that time has to be present and has to be aware of how their child is growing. And then, of course, of all the outside factors of the world. So the outside factors of the world are going to be your mainstream media, your social medias, your, their peers, their teachers, whatever is happening, right? Those outside factors today are negative. Okay. We are in an interesting time, right? Men can be women and women can be men, and it's the whole trans movement, and puberty blockers, and kids are saying that they need these puberty blockers so they don't hit puberty. But again, at essential times in a human's life, they must go through puberty, right? Because that's when the body is primed to grow. And if we don't allow the body to grow, it's going to create complications later in life. I'm not a scientist. I'm not a doctor. Now, what you need to do if your child is going to be tainted by outside influence is you need to adjust their environment. You might think that your environment is, I'm going to move them away. I'm going to take them out of that school. No, you just have to surround them with men who are kings in their own right, who know how to rule, who knows what it is to be authentic in manhood. And from there, that child's going to begin to acclimate into that. Because I know it's early for a lot of the trans people who are, being trans and stuff like this for this moment. It's trending. I understand. It's easier to be a woman than it is a man. Women are born with the values of men, have to build their values. All right. I'm sure you probably know about the study or the incident where a woman says, I'm going to be a man for 5 years, and she ends up ending her own life because she was treated so unfairly. That is the life of a man. When I was 18, I was treated unfairly by women who had more power than me. And I say, you know what? This is crazy, right? The feminist mentality, the feminist movement. Can we beat them? Of course we can beat them. We can beat them every single day. That's easy. Now, I just finished reading this book, and it's called Raising a Modern Day Knight. And it was recommended to me by another coach, Ralph Grace Jr. He was on my guest episode. If you haven't checked him out, check him out. So I read this book, right? Raising a Modern Day Knight. And I devoured it, right? It's a great book for fathers. And now this book is a religious book too. So if you know me, born and raised Catholic and went to church every Sunday, holidays, things like that. Having a sense of spiritual growth is important for a child. I will say that. When you're an adult, it plays a factor, but it's not a critical component anymore. So this book talks about growing up. It is a critical factor. And then they even say when you're an adult, it's a critical factor too. So this is going to be, again, what you believe, your opinion on religion and spirituality. I'm not saying to take every word of this book and make it your Bible. What I am saying is that this book has some great lessons to be learned. And in the introduction, this is the introduction. You can't see it because of the lights and stuff. Introduction, the first page of the book. I'm gonna read what they say. You need to know that your son and thousands like him are presently being stripped of their maleness by a modern, secular, feminist culture. Over the last few decades, this culture has steadily and relentlessly undermined healthy notions of what it means to be a man. Once noble images of masculinity have now been replaced by images of men behaving badly or incompetently, or both. Manhood is no longer a unique calling. It's now seen more as a problem to overcome. And it goes on and talks about the lack of connection with fathers and things like that. But the first page in this book is saying that men are under attack. They're living in a feminist type society. Women are stepping into power. Men should have that power. Not saying that women can't be in power. We're just talking about how men have become more passive because they have seen the opportunity of, I don't have to show up because someone else is doing it for me. I'm sure you probably know that there's a lot of moms who will go out and fight for their sons. And guess what happens? That child learns, mama's going to fight for me. Woman's going to fight for me. So women are taking the roles of protector and provider. And you're going to see in the next episode on Wednesday how a woman stepped into a masculine role, an alpha role, and she got a feminine man. There's nothing wrong with that. Again, according to relationships, you can have a relationship where a woman is masculine and a man is feminine. It works. Or you can have a relationship where the man is masculine and the woman is feminine. It works, right? You have something that complements each other. But we live in a world today where the ideal for women is to go out, get their own, be the protector, be the provider, not need a man. And that's a great thing, right? Men have it easy now. But then women will say, well, where are all the good men? Well, men don't have to show up. And that is what's happening. Men are not showing up. Men are not rising into the roles that they were meant to have. They were meant to be kings. So in a right, all these young men growing up, they're young kings and they are meant to be kings in the future. Yet our culture today is showing them again and again and again and again, well, this is the image of a man. This is what a man is. This is what you shouldn't do when you want to be a man, or you're not a real man if you do this. So now they're giving all these ideas of what is a man. And I don't think you heard me say, well, you're not a man if you do this. That's toxic. That's toxic. A man can be whatever he wants. I mean, if a man wants to be weak, he can be weak. But is he a king? A king is different than a man. Now, a king must be a man, but not every man will be a king. And we have to ask ourselves, to these young boys, to these people growing up, and even to my son growing up, you have a choice to make. You can choose to follow society that's corralling men to think in a way that's weak, that is making them docile, that's making them feminine in nature and emotional. I'm sure you probably know, oh, men should be able to cry and talk about their emotions. Shut the heck up. Yeah, men can talk about their emotions. I don't care. Men talk to me about their emotions all the time. They talk to another male about it. They're not talking to their lady. They're not talking to just any woman. I'm not saying that you cannot talk to your wife. You should be able to talk to your wife about things. But she should not be your primary source of emotional shedding. So if you have issues, you talk to the boys. If you have to bring up something with the missus, you bring up something with the missus. Just because you bring it up, you don't make it a habit. Oh, woe me, work, my boss is, being, tough on me again. And, like it's really tough. It's really tough. What do you want to do? Cry every evening to your wife about this? No. You get up, you show up, you do it again. And if you don't like your circumstance, you change your circumstance. So the people who are stuck in their 9 to 5 and they don't like their job or they don't like what they have in the world, they need to change. The man needs to change. A man must have a purpose. A man must not be passive. A man must be able to lead. A man must be able to protect. A man must be firm in who he is. And it's not what society is saying anymore, because society is saying that you can be a woman, you can be trans, you can be soft and emotional. Society is training people to be weak. The whole idea of Reven concepts is teaching people how to be strong. Teaching people that they can get better, not just, oh, I want happiness and things like that. People who come to me for relationships, I ask them a simple question. You want a traditional or modern relationship? Simple question. We talk about what's the difference. And then I give them exactly what they want. I will tell you, the women who get traditional relationships end up getting married within a year. That's just how it works. Modern relationships, they might go through a couple guys before their biological clock ticks and say, oh, I need to settle with this guy. So women are thinking in a different light. And now men are thinking how society's letting them to believe. We turn on a sitcom, we turn on the TV. Men are just weak. Men are just goofy. Oh, I'm going to be weak and I'm going to be goofy. I'm not going to be assertive. I'm not going to be strong. I'm not going to be wise. I'm not going to be courageous. A man is all of those things and more. And as a young person growing up, to the young kings of the world, you're going to have a lot of people swaying you back and forth. Andrew Tate's a great example, right? They throw him in jail, and the society, the world is saying that he's a bad example of a man. Don't follow this guy. He's a bad example to be a man. You should be someone like Obama, or you should be someone like Joe Biden or something like that. That right there is misinformation. They are telling you that you should be doing something when you shouldn't be doing it. My advice is to do your due diligence and ask yourself, what is the end result you want to have in your life? If you want to have a woman that you can cry and you can be a little bitch, that's fine. But if you want to be a man, if you want to be able to lead, if you want to be able to protect, then this right here, this blog, To the Young King, I encourage you to read it. If you're a parent, I encourage you to read it. If you are a father, I encourage you to read it. This right here is going to help you understand what type of power we should be giving our young men of the world. And this is not just for America. This is not just for Europe. This is for every man growing up. The stages of development are the stages of development. Once we know what to do, how to do it, we make it in an easy, palatable, bite-sized, no-fail process. And this is that process. You take turns. You understand your roles in a relationship. All right. And if you are in a relationship where you have things backwards, where the man is feminine and the wife is the masculine figure, you're going to create what that male is saying. Oh, I can cook and I can clean. I'm not saying that men shouldn't know how to cook and clean. I'm saying that there is a role that we must give our men, because we are not trying to rewire our genetic makeup. All right. We're not trying to give ourselves drugs to block natural chemical reactions in our body when age appropriation starts to happen. All right. We're not blocking puberty. We are stepping into puberty. We are stepping into manhood. We are stepping into our true rights. We were meant to be kings. Men, you were meant to be a king. Not every man is going to be a king, though, because you're going to have a lot of obstacles in your way, and you're going to succumb to those obstacles. You're going to succumb to a weak mindset. And I encourage you to not allow the outside stimulus to corral you to the wrong way. You should be strong. You should be masculine. You should be in your own right the ruler of everything that surrounds you. You should have total control. How you control is up to you. There's ways that you can do it that can be very iron-fisted, where it's your way or the highway, and anyone else who doesn't abide by your word will be punished. Is that toxic? I'm not going to say that's toxic. There are toxic behaviors, right? Negative behaviors with negative consequences. But if you are firm in what you want, you can do it without violence. You can do it without harming people. I'm very firm in what I want, and I don't have to raise my voice. I don't have to raise a fist. I don't have to hurt anybody to get what I want. There's no undermining here. I know what I want. I get what I want. When you have a young man in your life, a son, a nephew, whatever, you are going to see them grow and develop, and they're going to be watching you. They're going to be watching every move you make. So if you want to come home from work and drink a beer and sit on the sofa, they're paying attention. Just because you do it, it doesn't mean that they're going to do it. It's the art of perception. But here's the thing about perception. Perception cannot be controlled. How your son or how that child views what you do as good or bad is up to that child. But you need an upbringing. And it does help if you have the opposite sex. So your wife, right? Whoever is raising your child with you, there to affirm that this is what a man is. And you're a man. And you need to be like him. That right there solidifies who a man will become and what a man is. And if you have that in your life, then you're going to find yourself when you are in your 20s, in your 30s, that you are well ahead of all the other men. The average salary of men is what, like $45,000 or $55,000, like that? You will be well ahead of them. Because you decided to not accept mediocrity. You decided not to accept the societal norm. You decided not to be average. A king is not average. A king is above the standard. You decide who you want to be in your life. Do you want to be a king, or do you want to just be a man that no one is going to recognize, remember, or respect? One is going to lead you to greatness, and one is going to lead you to regret. I encourage you to choose greatness every single time. And if you need help, if you need guidance, if you have a young man in your life that you want to ensure that they are getting the best upbringing in this crazy society, in this crazy world we're living, I encourage you to head over to revenconcepts.com, get him some coaching, get him some guidance, get him some mentorship so he can be on the right track. Because what I'm finding is that parents are coming to me when their kids are already 18, they created their identity, and it's very hard to make that change in them because they think, I'm already a feminine male, I can't do this, right? I'm weak. And when I begin to challenge them, it's one of those battles that they're facing in their mind. And it's like, what do I do? What do I do? What do I do? And it's a battle that wouldn't have to happen if you follow these steps of developing a child or a man, a male, into a true man. You're going to find that he's going to be better equipped by the time he needs coaching, by the time he comes to get coaching. And from that point, he's going to step into knighthood, step into the ruler position easier than most other men, because we don't have to unlearn all the bad things. that he was learned. We don't have to unlearn all the safety nets and the coddling that he was given. We can just step into where he needs to be in power. My name is Michael Reven. I'm a mindset coach. If you have any questions, you can email me coachinginsession@gmail.com. And I will see everyone on the next episode of Coaching in Session. Until then, everyone take care.